Everywhere I go, people keep asking me the same question. What's going on with this crazy market? Is it going to crash and burn like it did before? Are we going to have foreclosures everywhere again? And I totally understand where that's coming from, because it's true that a lot of homeowners will reach the end of their 18-month mortgage forbearance period in September. So it only makes sense that a huge wave of foreclosures is coming, right? Well, the answer to that is probably not. And let me give you a couple of reasons why we probably won't see a big market crash and that huge wave of foreclosure activity that everybody's worried about. The main reason is that the CARES Act forbearance program did exactly what it was supposed to do. It allowed millions of people to get through the pandemic and the recession without losing their homes while giving them time to get back on their feet. Yeah, a whole bunch of homeowners are reaching the end of their mortgage forbearance period very soon. But the reality is, the number of loans in forbearance has been steadily decreasing for over 15 straight weeks. 2/3 of the homeowners that were granted forbearance during the pandemic have exited the program, with most of them having either resumed their monthly loan payments or paid them off. In fact, as of June 14th, almost 50% of the homeowners in forbearance have caught up their monthly payments, and there are actually only about 2 million homeowners still left on the plan. According to Mortgage Bankers Association research, from July 2020, when borrowers began exiting the program, through the end of the year, about 87% of them did so with a repayment plan in place, their loans reinstated, their missing payments deferred to the end of the loan, paid off the loan, or have a loan modification in place, all of which are pretty positive outcomes. And as of April 23rd, 91.6% of mortgage holders were current on their monthly mortgage obligations, which is actually the largest share for any month during the pandemic. The second reason we probably won't see a ton of foreclosures coming up is that the current mortgage market is really, really different than it was in the mid-2000s. I mean, back then, pretty much anybody with a pulse could buy a house. You could buy a home with no money down, no questions asked, and you could even get a mortgage if you didn't have a job. Remember ninja loans? I do. But in case you don't, it stood for no income, no assets, no job. Brilliant, right? So anyway, when the economy went sour, a lot of these homes fell into foreclosure and just got abandoned. The homeowners basically had no skin in the game, so they had no real incentive not to just walk away. Lenders learned their lesson after that fiasco, and today's lending standards are way more stringent, with most loans requiring at least some kind of down payment. That change in lending standards, combined with today's rapidly rising home prices, means that homeowners in foreclosure today have more options than they had during the Great Recession. Published research has indicated that more than 90% of borrowers in the forbearance program have more than 10% equity in their home. So today, if a homeowner needs to sell because they can't keep up with the payments and are facing foreclosure, they can actually list their home for a quick sale, pay the bank back in full, and usually walk away with at least a small profit. That's not to say there won't be foreclosures in our future. There absolutely will be. But the numbers probably won't be much different than they were prior to the pandemic. Before the pandemic, foreclosure activity was actually running at about half its normal rate. In a normal year, about 1% of loans are in some stage of the foreclosure process. In early 2020, it was only between 0.5 and 0.6%. And post-pandemic? Well, to put it into perspective, there were about 250,000 loans in foreclosure when the pandemic hit. And right now, about 325,000 borrowers currently exiting forbearance without a plan in place. So if we combine all of those, and then assume that every single one of them defaults, there would be 575,000 loans in foreclosure, which equals a foreclosure rate of 1.15%. That's barely above the historic average, and a really long way from the 4% of loans in foreclosure at the peak of the Great Recession. So now, we probably won't see that huge wave of foreclosures that everybody's worried about. And the housing market will continue to climb, at least for the time being. But that's a whole nother video. So tune in next week when we'll take a good look at why this housing market is way different than it was the last time.